So my friend just texted me and told me he has a business trip coming up in Japan, and he asked me if I had any advice. I was like, well, this is a perfect opportunity to, help him out, but also to help you, my subscribers, out. Because I think maybe some of you guys have, you have interest in Japan, so you may in the future have a business trip over here. And in that case, you probably will go to YouTube and see if there's any kind of advice. And some of the stuff that's floating out there, frankly, is not relevant, and it can be kind of misleading. So I wanted to make sure that I give you my take on business here as I've seen it. And so we're going to go through a few different real videos that exist on YouTube, which is why it's going to take a little bit longer today, because we're going to visit some other people's videos, and I'm going to critique them. And then there's a separate story that I kind of want to share with you about this guy who came to Japan to try to start his own business, which is a really cool idea, but he actually fails pretty bad. And so I wanted to go through that video with you, and kind of there's a lot of insight to take away from that, so I think it'll be worth it for all of us to watch that together. And then finally, I have my own advice. This is just purely my own, and I think it kind of goes beyond just Japan, but it's easy to kind of forget it when you come over here. So stick with me to the very end. There's so much to learn. I'm going to put on a shirt, and I'll see you in the studio. From Tokyo, Japan, Midwest and the Far East. First one I want to introduce to you today is from Gaijin Bank, and the video's titled Business Etiquette Rules You Should Know in Japan.
Hi everybody, this is Kanoa again from Gaijin Bank. Today I will be talking about business etiquettes that you must follow when you're in Japan. Rule number 1, wait before sitting down. When you visit an office, wait until the host tells you to have a seat before you take a seat. Number 2 is seating arrangements by rank. So the Japanese are usually very concerned about social rank status in the business setting. Depends on your rank in the business, and if you're a guest also, it depends.
So here she talks about business rank in the office, and that is of course a huge thing in Japan, definitely, and you hear that all over the place on the internet. What you need to keep in mind is that you're going to walk in there, you're going to be the lowest person on the rank. That's it. Doesn't matter where you go. You're trying to sell them something. You're trying to introduce to them something. But at the same time, they will probably tell you where to sit, and so you don't have to worry about that.
Learn formal greetings and keigo. So, for example, when you enter the room, you say "itsureshimasu," you say "otsukaresama."
Do not learn formal greeting. It'll take more time to learn how to speak the Japanese, let alone formal Japanese, than it will to just get over there and try to sell your product. So get over there, and heck, don't even touch the Japanese. That's fine. Focus on your product. Focus on the value that you add, and stop distracting yourself. So that's a great video that introduces a few different concepts that Japanese people in the workplace deal with every day. It's a little bit longer than that, but I think you kind of get the general idea, so I'll just leave it at that, and I'll have a link in the description. For us, I think it's just good to be aware of and not distracted by. All right, so this next one is from Bible Global, and it says 11 ways to be a Japanese business person. This happens. That happens too. Don't worry about it.
はい、株式会社ビエボ山田花子でございます。
Yes, most of the time.
すみません。
Again,
印刷用紙の購入の件についての倫理をお願いします。おう。はい。この間の倫理どうなりましたかね。
まだどこで止まってるかわかんない。
If things start to roll forward a little bit, you might think, okay, this is taking a long time, more than it usually did back home. That's common here. Just keep that in mind when you set your schedules for your business proposals or whatever.
This 今月の残業時間40時間超えた。
俺なんて100時間だよ。
俺のこと有給だよ。
よし。今日の仕事終わった。
よし、飲みに行くか。
はい。
おう。今度一緒に釣り行こうぜ。 今週末さ、引っ越しするから手伝ってよ。聞いたぜ、結婚するんだって。どこでやるの？
さ、招待状さ、住所知った方がいいっすよ、俺の。僕、明日から旅行に行くんすよ。
Now, this one was admittedly a little bit of a spoof. They're kind of taking things to extreme, but it's based in fact. So, kind of like the other one, just kind of keep these things in mind that, yes, Japanese people are stressed out by the way that business is done, and it's good to be culturally aware, but none of these things really are things that you need to consciously try to do during your trip to Japan. Just be aware of them. The last video that I want to introduce to you today before I get to my tips is this video called Japanese Work Culture by Andy Wee.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Okay.
So here we are, the same old thing, business cards, business cards, business cards.
My name is Yamato Furuta.
Yamato Furuta.
Yes.
But I just say your surname, right? Furuta. Furuta-san.
Hi.
Japanese people usually call each other by their family or last name. Given names are only used amongst close friends, couples, or family members.
I wasn't going to talk about that, but now that you brought it up, it is really common in Western cultures to just call people by their first name, but in Japan it is very, very, very uncommon.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so it's Yuiki-san.
The san is added to the family name. For example, they call me Chido-san. It is best not to address them by their given names unless they invite you to do so more than once.
Love a cup of coffee.
And it's not just names. Japanese in general are also very careful about the exchange of name cards. The positioning of the name card in relation to the other party also reflects respect. To accord respect to the other party, you place your name card in a lower position than the other person. English is taught but not spoken as much in Japan. Most of the Japanese know how to read and write much better than they speak. They can write beautiful, grammatically correct emails, but when it comes to conversations, it's another matter. It's best to just stick to learning a few Japanese words to get you by.
So the way that I see it is, in a business setting, it should be all or nothing. If you don't know Japanese, don't speak it. If you do know Japanese, lay it out there. Make sure that they know that you can speak Japanese. I think that if it gets to be a little bit choppy, there could be some rudeness there. And you might say something that you didn't intend to say, and it could come off as rude. So if you are coming to sightsee or something like that, and there's no financial repercussions like that, then yeah, try out your Japanese. Homestay, try it out. Yeah, that's what you're there for. Business, probably not. Outside of maybe just saying konnichiwa, but that would be about it. Honestly, why give the people that you want to do business with any doubt as to what you are saying?
It's also about body language. Understand that in this country, learning how to take cues without the spoken word can be very useful in helping you negotiate your way through uncomfortable or embarrassing situations, should they happen. The first thing you should know, Japanese rarely maintain eye contact. Doing so can be perceived as being challenging or threatening.
I have not found that to be true. People who have traveled to Japan, have you? Japanese people, have you found that to be true?
The Japanese are known for their bow, so how low you bow reflects how much respect you're paying someone, especially if it's an esteemed colleague or boss. Do bow when you greet a person as well as before you take your leave. It helps you make a better impression. However, it doesn't mean the Japanese are inflexible. These days, they are more adept to shaking hands with their Western counterparts.
Konnichiwa. Konnichiwa. Business card. Business card.
Besides bowing, seating
Just to point something out on this, actually, so he pulled his business card out of his pocket, his bottom pants pocket. I wouldn't do that. I'll pull it out of your jacket pocket.
Even though office hours are officially from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., it is quite common for Tokyoites to work till 10 or 11 p.m.
Depends on where you work. It's not 100% true everywhere, but it is also not 100% false. But you don't need to know about that, honestly. That's just be mindful, I guess, but who cares? Move on. Focus on your business.
For foreigners used to a 9-to-5 working culture, this can be hard to get used to. Tokyoites not only work hard, they play hard as well, and it is a popular practice amongst colleagues and business associates to socialize after work. Some izakayas offer tabe hodai, which is all you can eat, and nomi hodai, which is all you can drink deals.
I've got to tell you,
If you can drink like a fish, like I am now, then you're bound to score some extra points with your business associates. I'm in liquor heaven. Kapai!
That was kind of an interesting video too. There's some points in there that were actually really, really valid, and some points that I don't know, I just didn't quite agree with. But we'll kind of leave it there. There's actually more, so that was a little bit longer. So if you really want to see the full thing, there's a link in the description. You can go see that. So now I want to switch gears and actually talk about this TV show called Why Did You Come to Japan? Why Did You Come to Japan is actually a really popular TV show, and I'm just going to show you some clips from it. But the whole premise is take people who have just come to Japan, who have interesting sounding stories, and follow them around. So a camera crew will actually just go to Narita Airport or Haneda Airport, and they'll just be waiting at the gates where people come out, and they'll just, they'll shove a microphone in people's faces and ask them that question. Why did you come to Japan? And the more interesting the answer, the more likely they are to be like, hey, can we follow you? And some people say yes, and then they follow them around. Some people, for example, they just like, one guy really liked melon pan, and he wanted to go like see this melon pan restaurant. They followed him to a melon pan restaurant. There was another guy that said he was in this like international chef competition, and they followed him to this international chef competition. So some of it's really cool. Other times, the outcome isn't quite as good as you hoped. So that's actually what I'm going to show to you today. So it's this guy who came to Japan with big dreams on like starting a business in Japan, and things didn't go as planned. So it's sort of a tragedy, but I think there's a lot to learn from it. So let's get started. So this is our guy.
すみません。ちょっとインタビューお願いします。You は何しに日本へ
I want to live in Japan. I love this country.
A little bit of background on the story. So these two guys here on the left and right, they're just in blue screens, and they just comment on this it's shown to them for the first time, and then they just kind of comment on this as it goes along. They're originally comedians, and they have had a lot of success with this show. Anyway, get back.
住むんですかこれから。
時計職人。
時計職。
自前の時計を作ってね。
おお、これあなた自分で作ったんですか？
そう。handmade. handmade. I want to do it in Japan.
なるほどなるほど。
この方がどうしたの？日本に移住しに来た時計職人よ。
Like really high quality watches. So get kind of pumped, right?
すごい時計ね。結構でも
時計はこっちで
な
作ってお店を出してお店で売りたいですか？
Maybe.
で住むところは決まってんですか
？No, I have to find a job before.
仕事もこれから探すんですか？
You realize he's just showed up without a plan.
もうちょっと調べてから。
This is his friend, right, who's trying to help him out. He says, I think it would have been better if you had done a little bit more research before coming to Japan.
2週間だけお世話になることに。
時計作る道具とかっていうのは
Tools to make what, please?
I have to find an apartment for a long time.
This is just the worst case scenario. Like, you're not going to find an apartment long term if you only have a tourist visa, which is the only thing that he has right now. And he's going to start looking for a job so that he can get within those 90 days, so that he can get an apartment, so that he can bring his tools, so that he can like start selling watches. It's just, it's so bad. Now this is cool. I didn't know this existed, but this is a chamber of commerce. So it's the French Chamber of Commerce in Japan. And maybe there are other chambers of commerce in Japan. I didn't know those existed. That would be something cool to check out. But it's kind of interesting that he finally gets there 11 days after he's arrived.
彼は今までの経験が特殊な業界ですので、すごく難しいと思います。やっぱり企業じゃないので。
私 私は日本に住みたいです。
Okay, and then he starts off with this. Like, I want to live in Japan. Why would you ever start a business conversation with that? That is the worst way to start that conversation. You are not adding any value to this, you know? Like, wow. Like, that is great, you know, wonderful. If you're a student, I want to live in Japan, wonderful. But I think he's trying to sell his wares, he's trying to start business, and so we need to start off with whatever value you're going to add.
仕事が惜しいです。
働きたい。
できますか？
小さい仮にここに来たとしてもフランス語できない英語も本当にちゃんとした英語できない。言葉の壁もあるしね。難しいです。
So of course the result is no. It's a big no because, and you just mentioned it's a language barrier. So the owner doesn't really speak French or English, and our hero doesn't really speak Japanese. So this is a basic level of advice, which you get everywhere. And you can find this anywhere online. But if you are planning to do business in Japan, and he wants to live there. So, which is a little bit different than maybe if you're just going there for a one-time, you know, to give a pitch or something like that, and then you're going back to the States or whatever. But if you are seriously planning on living in this country and working at a business like this, you are going to have to learn Japanese. It would just be unacceptable to even consider the idea of, and I'm sorry I'm being harsh, but it's just like, that is a minimum. Like, you can't expect people to just kind of pick up for you and take care of you. So, yeah, kind of harsh, but seriously, unless you are someone who doesn't have to rely on, you know, interacting with other people, you know, you really need to. That is step one. Learn your Japanese.
これでむずいよね。あとは個人の。
Wow. Okay, he didn't make an appointment. Like, how does it's so bad.
I don't have phone number.
個人店だったら置いてくる。
So the word is tobikomi eigyo, which just means cold call, cold sales. You're just gonna show up and just give them the elevator pitch. Tobikomi eigyo.
する可能性あるかもしれない。置いてく。大丈夫。すげえな。いやいや。ありがとうございます。よかったです。あれリュック。
私はフランス人時計職人です。スケレトン時計を作る。はい。これ。それはエンドメイド。はいはい。私の時計をディスプレイ。はい。ブランドはありますか?
Now maybe it's common in your country to use as like a response for like something like yes, but it would almost be better if he said yes instead. Is a very casual way of saying something, of saying yes, and you should not be using it in these kinds of cases. So many other ways like.
ブランド。一人で作る？ちょっと待って。ノットカンパニー。うちでは難しいね。そう。
やっぱね。
メーカーとしてやんないと難しいんですよね。時計はアフターサービスの問題とかもあるし。はい。ごめんなさい。
大丈夫大丈夫。ありがとうございました。
He brought up a good point here, and I don't mention this later in my discussion, but he talks about after service being a problem. And this is a huge problem. If you are trying to sell a product in Japan, you have to make sure that you are going to have a system in place to service the Japanese, because the Japanese demand such high quality, and because the language barrier is so high that if you do not offer that kind of service, which, like he mentioned here, a brand would, good luck. It's going to be really hard for you.
ありがとうございました。
ノットカンパニー、ノットビジネス。
I'm gonna stop it right there. You get an idea of where everything is going, and you know that it's just going into the dumps, and that's exactly what happened. He actually had to go back to France. Nothing really came out of it. Hopefully he learned a lesson, and hopefully you guys learned a lesson too. Right now you're thinking about coming to Japan for maybe a presentation or something like that. It's a one-time gig, but who knows? Maybe in the future you might have plans of starting your own thing. That would be super cool. Just keep these things in mind. Let's make sure that we don't let his terrible experience go in vain. So now I want to get to our final section where I just offer up some of my own insight, my own advice that kind of just, like I said, goes beyond just Japan and kind of extends into the general workplace as well. But I think it is especially true when we talk about Japan, because Japan can be kind of distracting with everything that's so weird and different. The first tip is to schedule in advance. So like we saw from our friend the watchmaker, some of you may have it in your mind that you can come here totally without a plan and just make things work. That's never gonna work. You must do your research. So we learned that there are chambers of commerce. See if you can reach out to the American Chamber of Commerce, if there is one, French Chamber of Commerce, whatever Chamber of Commerce, and first find out what kind of hoops you need to jump through. Schedule that before you get here. So it may be very obvious, but the first thing that you need to do is find a translator. In order to set up these meetings, you're gonna have to speak in Japanese. You have to write Japanese, because chances are they're not gonna just respond to an English email. It's very intimidating, I think, for somebody who maybe doesn't have that kind of experience to deal with an English email. Take the time, spend the money, hire a translator to work with you during this process. And then they can help find somebody in the company who speaks English so you can talk to them directly. Nothing could be more rude than just showing up at a doorstep. That not only just totally disregards their schedule, it kind of gives them an idea of the amount of professionalism that you have as a person. You must bring your interpreter with you if you're going to get business done in Japan. If you were there to sightsee, fine, you can get along without somebody, but you're not there to sightsee. Now there are a couple of different sites that you can go to hire interpreters. The first site you can go to is called Upwork. Now, I've never used Upwork, but looking at the pictures of people on the website, they look like professionals, they have really high ratings, and their rates aren't too bad. It's maybe $20 to $60 an hour. Talk to them before you arrive here and see if you can arrange one of them to be with you at the airport and to be with you at all your business meetings. Other organization that I want to introduce to you is called Japan Association of Translators, or JAT. And I've actually gone to some of their seminars in the past, and the people that go there are just, they're the best of the best. They're the pros, and they break them down. People work in pharmaceuticals or engineering or aerospace or I don't know. Everyone is specialized, and so you're gonna get a really high quality translation, interpretation. And if you have the money, spend it on them. So the second piece of advice I want to offer to you today is actually a little bit counterintuitive, and it's to be a little bit more confident. So when you come to Japan, a lot of people just kind of get overwhelmed, Japan, everything's so different. That is definitely not the way that you need to approach this. If you're coming here as a sightseeing tourist, totally, yeah, just be mind blown about how different things are. But not for you. You need to focus on what you need to get done, and that is to make sure that you give the best presentation possible. So get here, yeah, be culturally sensitive, of course, but don't let that get into your body and the way you do business. Relax, be confident. You know what you're doing. So what I would recommend is, since they already know you're going to be there because you have an appointment set up, to just walk in, and as soon as you know who you're talking to, okay, this is the person I'm going to be meeting, go in there with a handshake, Go in there just confident and say, hey, I'm Joe. Nice to meet you. And the reason is because you are not Japanese. Think about it. Japanese people every single day will interact with Japanese people. And when business is being done, it's always the bow. It's always the business cards. It's always that. But you're not Japanese. You're American. You're French. You're Mozambican. I don't know, but you're not Japanese. And I think that kind of novelty is something that you are offering. You are selling a product, yes, but you are also selling your culture and your access to the country that you're from. It is part of your value. You are not there to be a Japanese citizen. You're there to offer them that international side, to offer them the service, then the product that is not Japanese. And the first thing you can do to make sure that hits home to them is by just extending a hand. Even if it makes them a little bit uncomfortable for a second, I think they're actually gonna be really happy about that because they don't get to give handshakes all that often. It'll be kind of a cool thing that'll kind of help break the ice. And the last bit of advice is print, print, print. Obviously business cards are a big thing, but maybe you have a presentation that you're gonna give. Maybe you have a bigger product that you couldn't bring. Bring pictures of that product, actually print out those pictures, and print out copies of your presentation on nice paper too. I think that's really gonna give a really clear message that you care, and it'll be a good backup in case something goes wrong. 2 other things. Bring in a notepad, actually. So it's a big no-no to keep notes on your phone, and it's kind of off-putting to have like a wall of a screen for your laptop in front of your, hopefully, business partner. Having a memo kind of keeps your face open, and it kind of keeps things organic. Last, I would actually have a letter of gratitude that maybe you can kind of write out in advance in English, unless you speak perfect Japanese. Write it in English or French, excuse me, whatever your main language is, and have that ready in an envelope. Just write down the name maybe at the last second, and then maybe send it off before you go to bed that night or something like that. That'll go a huge, huge way to make a great impression, and not just in Japan, I think, but in any country. A lot of these, you know, when you come to think about it, kind of apply to not just Japan. But the problem is that a lot of people get hung up on the fact that it's Japan. Don't do that. Remember, be confident. You probably have a great product and a great service. But if you don't do the time to set up a good meeting, to be confident about yourself, and to make sure that you have all those things like the paper all ready to go, chances are it's going to be really, really difficult for you. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about this kind of content or about anything to do with life in Japan, I would be more than happy to answer that. Plus, I would love to hear success stories if you have any in the comments below. Remember to subscribe and like this video, and I'll see you next time.